Do you recall a time when being faithful to a brand actually mattered? People would remain with a single cruise company for a decade or even 2 decades because the company made them feel valued. The agreement was straightforward. Passengers understood their financial commitment and the service they'd receive in return. However, as we enter 2026, that understanding is being torn apart. A review of more than 4,000 current customer feedback reports, corporate financial documents, and updated internal guidelines exposes a harsh new truth. This situation extends beyond subpar cuisine. We're witnessing a deliberate breakdown of what cruising should be. From the company notorious for hidden fees to the brand that's transformed into a party boat, these 6 cruise companies are establishing a troubling precedent for 2026. Understanding their motivations and identifying better alternatives for your vacation budget. These are the cruise lines experiencing the steepest declines. Cruise Company 6, facing a brand identity problem. Coming in at position 6 is Princess Cruises. We start with them because the statistics indicate the most modest drop, roughly 10%. While this figure might seem manageable at first glance, understanding the bigger picture is crucial. These satisfaction scores represent Princess's worst performance in recent memory, and customer feedback points to a company grappling with a significant identity struggle. Analysis of customer reviews shows the criticisms are neither scattered nor arbitrary. They're focused, recurring, and expose a brand experiencing internal conflict. The company's vessel collection is experiencing a significant split. At one extreme, older vessels exist. Dedicated passengers are directly communicating that these boats seem outdated, with repeated calls for either renovation or retirement. These ships are lowering the brand's overall performance. Yet the newer vessels aren't improving the situation. Reception of the most recent ship class, including the Sun and Star Princess, is deeply split. Despite being promoted as the company's direction, numerous traditional supporters believe these enormous ships are excessively large. The design is controversial and the interior styling receives regular criticism for lacking the Princess brand essence. This represents a shift from the company's traditional character that isn't resonating with their established customer base. The cuisine situation is officially problematic and affecting their scores. While some evidence suggests Princess has worked to enhance dining in certain areas lately, the sheer number of complaints paints a contradictory picture. Customer feedback is saturated with accounts of meals missing quality and flavor, plus menu options that have grown monotonously similar. Even where enhancements might exist in isolated cases, they're not consistently reaching typical passengers. The service quality follows an identical trend. Staff members continue receiving widespread commendation for their welcoming nature. This aspect remains unchanged, yet their ability to provide service has deteriorated. The consistent observation is that employees appear more overextended than previously. This directly results from the mathematical reality of these newer, larger vessels accommodating significantly more guests, coupled with higher booking rates throughout the fleet versus prior periods. The staff-to-guest proportion has failed. Even their technology is underperforming. The wearable medallion device and Princess application, theoretically their distinguishing features, are receiving inconsistent feedback with an increase in reports about system failures and overall dependability issues. It functions properly until it stops working. The conclusion: current passengers believe Princess is losing direction. The brand is departing from its upscale identity and approaching the general market segment. With ships growing larger and promotional efforts shifting toward younger pairs and family groups, customer feedback indicates that Princess's core demographic, the couples who established this brand's reputation, are viewing the company much less favorably. They're being abandoned. Cruise Company 5, impressive vessels, disorganized operations. At position 5 sits MSC Cruises. They've experienced roughly a 14% decline, yet that figure conceals a more severe situation. Their scores were previously at the industry's lowest point, staying near 3.2 out of 5. Therefore, they didn't simply decline, they dropped from an already low position, and customer comments explain precisely why. MSC has consistently been the industry's most polarizing company. Nobody disputes the quality of their physical ships. Universal agreement exists that the newest ship class, including World Europa and Seashore, is visually impressive. They receive continuous acclaim for their layout, structural design, and aesthetic qualities. However, once passengers board, the story transforms. The dominant opinion from travelers is that operations simply function poorly. This operational breakdown continues suppressing their scores. Customer feedback is packed with accounts of disorderly lines and confusion at every point. A significant contributor is the extreme passenger concentration. Since MSC heavily markets to families through kid-sale-free promotional offers, they're regularly operating well above double capacity. They're not merely booking staterooms. They're occupying every third and fourth bed with youngsters, generating a passenger total the ship's design struggles to accommodate. The dining experience represents another regular source of frustration. The descriptors showing up most frequently in feedback are harsh, unpredictable, lukewarm, and diminished. The service quality, particularly guest relations, is broadly perceived as unreliable. Staff members are regularly characterized as uncooperative, curt, or dismissive. This tension is especially pronounced on American departure sailings where travelers are familiar with and anticipate a more engaged, cordial American-style service approach that MSC fails to provide. Nevertheless, one particular area continues scoring reliably well: the Yacht Club. This exclusive section within the ship is the exception. It keeps receiving high marks for providing excellent value and a truly upscale experience that contrasts sharply with the remainder of the ship. Analysis of recent months is unambiguous. Despite the new vessels being undeniably attractive, the truth of unreliable service, overcrowded areas, and mediocre cuisine is pulling scores downward. Even the extremely affordable ticket prices are insufficient to divert passengers' attention from the disorder present on board. Cruise Company number 4. The industry leader is showing weakness. At number 4 comes a real surprise: Royal Caribbean. For a company that typically leads the sector, a rating plunge exceeding 16% is enormous. Theoretically, they should be invincible. However, the statistics reveal that even the industry's dominant force is beginning to show vulnerabilities. This brand is recognized for continuously introducing groundbreaking massive vessels providing extraordinary entertainment, water spectacles, Broadway performances, ice skating exhibitions, and huge attractions including flow riders, water slides, and zip lines. In theory, they should be unbeatable. Yet cracks are emerging in their reputation. The vessel collection is split, and the aging ships, which are numerous, are progressively lowering the scores. Passengers are characterizing these boats as decrepit, deteriorated, and beyond their useful life. A widespread perception exists that the company's focus, and naturally the financial resources, is directed entirely toward constructing and introducing newer, continuously larger ships, allowing the established vessels to deteriorate. However, even the newest massive ships like Icon and Star of the Seas face challenges. While passengers genuinely appreciate the physical ships themselves, scores are being reduced by the sheer number of people. With these vessels operating at full capacity, grievances are increasing about difficulty locating seating areas, encountering lengthy waits, and interacting with exhausted staff. Let's be specific regarding the passenger density. Vessels are more crowded currently than at any previous time. Statistics demonstrate these ships are regularly operating at 110% of standard double capacity. This indicates every pull-out sofa is occupied, every overhead bunk is deployed, and the dining area was planned for 2,000 fewer individuals than are currently using it. The crowding you're experiencing isn't imaginary. The numbers confirm it. The dining experience has also become a source of tension. Quality appears somewhat more variable lately. Although people don't extensively complain regarding the meals, particular terms like monotonous menus and mass-produced are surfacing more regularly in feedback. We're observing accounts of portion reduction affecting the dessert area. Passengers are sharing images of cake that's essentially just 95% fragments presented in a small glass topped with whipped cream. The presentation appears sophisticated, yet it's an expense reduction strategy to make a single sheet cake serve 1,000 individuals. Similar to other companies on this ranking, Royal is experiencing an upswing in grievances about incremental charges. Increasing annoyance exists regarding additional fees for items people think were previously complimentary, alongside persistent aggressive promotion of beverage packages, dining upgrades, and internet access. Even when the actual on-board situation hasn't transformed significantly in practical terms, how people perceive it is important. Currently, the perception exists that Royal is providing less while demanding more payment. Despite continuing to offer excellent entertainment and cutting-edge, feature-rich vessels, that distinctive impressive quality appears to be diminishing somewhat. Cruise Company 3. The price of reducing quality. At position 3 is Norwegian Cruise Line. At this point, the reduction intensifies to above 20%. However, for industry observers, this plunge isn't unexpected. It's an inevitable outcome. This represents the direct consequence of multiple disputed reductions and guideline modifications that have ultimately exhausted their dedicated customer base. The catalog of eliminations is extensive. They currently impose charges for additional main courses in the primary dining area. They discontinued providing the physical daily schedule to passenger rooms. Currently, you must actively search for one or specifically ask for it. They restrict door decorations. A penalty exists when you fail to appear for specialty restaurant bookings, and stateroom cleaning was reduced some time ago to only once daily. Additionally, they've substituted certain significant Broadway productions with less expensive internally created shows. The outcome of these changes, repeated feedback expressing that all previously included services now require payment. Although Norwegian has historically functioned on an affordable base price structure with purchasable extras, passengers appear to believe the equilibrium has shifted excessively. Commentary regarding dining is similarly critical. Menu selections are characterized as reduced. Meal quality is more variable and premium dining continues becoming costlier. Entertainment, previously a strength, is currently described as less thrilling and less creative than formerly. Similar to Royal Caribbean, the aging vessels are reducing the feedback scores. These ships are regarded as more deteriorated, antiquated, and exhausted, reinforcing the notion that the company is concentrating its finances exclusively on new vessels while disregarding the current fleet. Yet even the newest ships are creating division among passengers and suppressing feedback. The new Prima class features a substantially different design compared to previous Norwegian vessels. Although the styling has supporters, numerous long-term Norwegian devotees find the design perplexing and consider many areas excessively compact for the passenger volume. For solo travelers, NCL was previously your ideal choice. Currently, they're ignoring you. They're decreasing solo studio staterooms on recent ships and adjusting the cost structure. Commenters are specifically mentioning they're abandoning NCL reservations because the solo accommodating company has transformed into the solo unfriendly company. In general, reviewers currently are more inclined to characterize Norwegian as a downgraded version of the company they previously cherished. Excessive reductions, excessive modifications, and inadequate amounts of that freestyle enjoyment the brand established its identity upon. Cruise Company 2. Has the enchantment disappeared? At number 2 comes the most significant surprise on this ranking, Disney Cruise Line. For generations, they've been regarded as beyond criticism, the industry's benchmark for excellence. Yet the statistics are devastating. Their scores have dropped almost 25%, declining from an almost flawless standing directly down to the 3-point range. Therefore, what has recently gone awry with Disney? The explanation seems straightforward. Passengers are regularly expressing that costs have increased excessively and the experience no longer feels enchanting. It simply feels costly. In customer feedback, this perspective is predominantly from first-time passengers. These are travelers who spent considerable sums anticipating a truly premium experience justifying the steep cost, yet departed feeling let down. However, it's not exclusively new passengers. Devoted Disney supporters are discussing overcrowding. Significantly more than previously. This is mentioned particularly on those briefer Bahamas and Caribbean routes the company operates regularly, and especially regarding the Disney Treasure, their most recent vessel. Negative commentary about crowds reaches its peak here. This ship accommodates considerably more passengers than the other vessels, and that heightened concentration appears to be driving the complaints. Unexpectedly, meal quality has also suffered. Feedback currently mentions dishes that are flavorless, cold, and inadequately plated. This signifies a substantial departure from earlier periods when Disney dining was a distinguishing feature. Growing discussion exists about incremental fees. Even when the company hasn't technically raised these charges, the perception has shifted. When passengers believe they're already spending excessively high amounts, any supplementary charge becomes dramatically noticeable. Individuals continue commending the staff and the robust family orientation that stays unchanged. However, a distinct tonal shift exists. The assessment currently is satisfactory, not exceptional, not justified by the cost, and not as enchanting as previously. Although Disney naturally maintains enormous family attraction and delivers that distinctive fully engaging experience, It's currently experiencing challenges from not being perceived as providing good value. Cruise Company 1, the ultimate violation of customer faith. Finally, at position 1, the sole company experiencing an even larger breakdown than Disney, Carnival Cruise Line. The statistics here are shocking. Within merely the past half year, their scores haven't just decreased, they've plummeted by more than 25%. What explains the brand's rapid deterioration? Similar to Norwegian, a visible and expanding resistance to recent modifications the company has implemented exists, particularly the disputed alteration to their customer loyalty system. The transition from accumulated sailing days to connecting status with yearly expenditure has communicated an unmistakable message. Yet this isn't merely a guideline revision. It represents a violation of trust. Carnival has changed the criteria for their most devoted VIFP participants. We're witnessing confirmed accounts from passengers with more than 40 days reserved in 2026 who have abandoned all bookings in objection. When you inform your most faithful customers they're unimportant, you don't merely forfeit a reservation, you generate an adversary. Numerous established passengers feel disadvantaged and dismissed, even when they're not genuinely abandoning the company. That general bitterness is a substantial element in this significant transformation in feedback and scores. Carnival has consistently promoted itself as enjoyable, economical cruising, yet passengers are expressing it's losing that equilibrium. Feedback from established Carnival passengers, individuals who have sailed with them for 2 decades, are currently bluntly declaring the offering has severely deteriorated. Significantly, most feedback make special effort to continue commending the staff, describing them as welcoming, accommodating, and the optimal aspect of the cruise. They indicate the issues exist in other areas. Cuisine represents a significant weakness currently, with numerous reviewers employing terms like flavorless, monotonous, and diminished. Entertainment is similarly regularly described as reduced and less diverse than in former years. Additionally, there's the environment. Regular mentions exist of unruly conduct, poorly supervised children causing disruption, intoxicated passengers, and naturally, the occasional yet widely publicized altercations among passengers. These entire incidents harm the company's reputation and standing, and that harm is appearing in the statistics. Similar to Royal Caribbean and Norwegian, the aging vessels are pulling scores downward. Carnival operates an exceptionally large collection of 29 ships, certain nearly 3 decades old. Numerous feedback pieces characterize these vessels and accommodations as deteriorated, shabby, and beyond their optimal condition. Despite feedback for the recent ships like Mardi Gras, Celebration, and Jubilee being favorable, the aging vessels are certainly reducing the scores. Although passengers pursuing good value and entertaining staff remain attracted to Carnival and their appealing costs, they appear to believe conditions aren't quite correct lately. This is particularly accurate for previously faithful passengers who are significantly more disapproving currently, presumably because they're feeling dismissed by the very company they contributed to building. The 3 alternative options: where to reserve instead. Therefore, has cruising ended? Absolutely not. However, for numerous established passengers, the major 6 companies no longer provide satisfactory options. Actually, 3 particular alternative companies exist that former Royal Caribbean, Carnival, and NCL passengers are transitioning to currently. Initially, there's Holland America. When the objective is avoiding racing tracks and noisy children, this is where mature travelers are congregating. It's tranquil, the cuisine receives reliably superior ratings, and the vessels are more compact. Subsequently, there's Celebrity Cruises, particularly the Edge class. This has transformed into the preferred destination for former Royal Caribbean passengers who desire the contemporary ship features and styling but decline to tolerate the massive shopping center-like crowds. Third is Virgin Voyages. For individuals who despise incremental charges, Virgin provides the solution. No children, no unexpected fees once you're sailing, and cuisine that genuinely resembles quality food. However, be cautioned, the atmosphere is substantially different. Yet what regarding your perspective? Has cruising's prime era definitively concluded, or are these companies simply navigating temporary difficulties? Share your thoughts in the comments section. The sector is transforming rapidly, therefore ensure you're subscribed to remain informed. For additional useful guidance to conserve your finances and reduce hassle, view this video afterward. Appreciation for viewing. Until the next one.